Hello and welcome to Tech 24 with me, Anelise Borges. Coming up, US-China cyber talks overshadowed by PRISM revelations. We take a look at one of the biggest intelligence leaks in US history. And in Test 24, we try a wooden Bluetooth keyboard for tablets, smartphones, and PCs. But first, here's a look at the impact of mobile telephone industry on economic growth in Africa. The figure of the week is brought to you by Le Journal du Net.
Mobile phones have changed the economic landscape in Africa. In a continent that has 4 times more mobile subscribers than internet users, the mobile ecosystem today employs over 5 million people. Most of these jobs are on the periphery, with very few people working with the actual operator. For instance, in Nigeria, for 10 indirect jobs, the operator only creates 1 direct job. Numbers are even higher in Uganda and Kenya, as well as in Tanzania and Rwanda.
Moving on now. Xi Jinping traveled to California last week for a US-China summit that ended with deals made on North Korea and HFC's emissions. Some would call that a successful meeting. But the summit was overshadowed by revelations of NSA's PRISM program. According to information obtained by The Guardian and The Washington Post, the U.S. National Security Agency has been monitoring communications between U.S. and foreign nationals over the internet since 2007. Some of the biggest internet companies, from Apple to Google to Yahoo, are said to be involved, but have denied knowledge of any such program. Google released a statement that read, "Google does not have a backdoor for the government," while an Apple spokesman said they have never even heard of PRISM. I am now joined by Eric Olander, who's in China and follows the U.S. cyber strategy from up close. Eric, thank you so much for joining us today. And I would like to start, first of all, by asking you about this US-China summit that ended with a lot of agreements on a lot of levels, but nothing on cyber espionage. What does that mean for the two countries? Where do they stand at the moment?
Well, it really reveals the lack of leverage that the United States has when talking to China on this issue. The United States went into these discussions wanting to get some concessions out of China to hold back on their cyber attacks in order to be able to set some rules. That's what the U.S. has been trying to do, is set some rules. The Chinese have taken a very strong position here by saying, listen, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. We don't know what you're talking about. And frankly, there's really nothing that the United States can do to change that equation unless the United States is really ready to up the price that the Chinese must pay for attacks. And that's really the key question here. But clearly, Obama wasn't ready to go there to force the Chinese to do something about it. And that's why they really are at a standstill on this issue.
Now, these talks were overshadowed by revelations of Washington's own cyber snooping strategy. Let's talk a little bit more about that. How much of what we know now about the PRISM program is accurate?
Well, it's very hard to tell, and for 2 different reasons. One, we are relying really on the information from Edward Snowden, who is now holed up in Hong Kong. And once again, China and the U.S. are really stuck in this. China is very much a key actor in this as to what they are going to do with Snowden, who's there. So we only know the information that's coming out of him. We're getting little bits and pieces of information from the internet service providers. One of the very key pieces of information to take away from this story, especially here in places like China, is it adds more doubt to U.S. governance of the internet. There has always been a lot of suspicion that the United States government played too large a role in managing the internet, either through its ICANN management and as well as now possibly using backdoors or some other methods of gaining access to the big global players in the internet business. So it really adds justification for companies and countries like China, Iran, Russia, and even Egypt that want to set up their own internets not dependent on the United States, because this really does cast a lot of doubt on the role that U.S. agencies are playing in management of the internet.
Now, there also have been remarks about the PRISM budget. 20 million US dollars seems to be too low for that level of surveillance. Is it realistic that the US government might be wiretaping and listening to all phone conversations on a price tag of a mere $20 million?
Well, let's be clear here. They've been very clear about saying that they're not wiretapping the conversations, they're picking up the metadata. And that's a very important distinction to make, because you can actually find out almost as much information by just picking up the data around the actual conversation, but there's been no evidence yet that they've actually been listening on the conversations. The $20 million budget is a complete farce. There's absolutely no way they're doing that. One of their data centers alone is costing $1 billion. So this is a huge budget. These are part of the very secretive U.S. intelligence and national security budgets that we frankly do not know, and we will never really know the true scope of it. So I would be very, very skeptical of anything coming out of the United States government right now when it comes to the budgets and to the scope of what we know right now, because we really just don't know, and I really doubt that we'll ever know.
All right, thanks for that. On that note, we're going to wrap this part of the show. Thank you so much for joining us today. Eric Olander joining us there from Shanghai. And we're going to have to move on now. It's time for Test 24. Keyboards come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, but never before have we seen one made from a single piece of wood. We introduced the Oriboard, one of the most unique-looking keyboards we've ever seen, and Marc is here to tell us if it's more than just beautiful. Marc, what do you think?
Well, let me ask you a question, Anelise. Have you ever bought a pair of gorgeous shoes that, unfortunately, are very painful when you wear them?
Certainly.
I'm sure that you have. Well,
Several.
The Ori keyboard, that's what the Ori keyboard is to me.
Oh, okay.
It's beautiful, but impractical. And, you know, beauty may work in the world of fashion, but in the world of technology, I think we're far less bothered about aesthetics and far more bothered about whether you can actually use this. And yes, the concept is great. 9 out of 10 keyboards in the world are not recycled. This one, fully recyclable, wireless, cableless, so beautifully mobile. And look, the finish is absolutely delightful. I mean, it really is beautiful.
How does it feel?
It feels great.
Nice.
But,
yeah,
as I said, no. The
No.
bad things about this, the battery underneath has to be taken out when it runs out, and it has a tendency to slide around as well.
All right, how did you rate it?
Well, in terms of design appearance, 9 out of 10. I mean, it really, really is a beautiful piece of equipment. Very easy to set up, very easy to use, 7 out of 10. Not worth the €150 price tag. That's why we've really gone down, 3 out of 10. Overall, 6.3. This iteration I wouldn't take. Sort out the battery, sort out the sliding keyboard. I will probably buy this.
Do you think this is a work in progress? Will they come up with new editions?
I would hope so if they want to be a successful company, that's for sure.
Thanks for that, Marc, and thank you for watching this edition of Tech 24. Don't forget, you can get in touch with us via Facebook or on Twitter. And we leave you today with Motorola's authentication pill. If you're among those who constantly worry about forgetting one of the many passwords you need on a daily basis, Motorola has got an alternative. A vitamin authentication in form of a daily pill activated by stomach acid that sends out an 18-bit ECG-like signal, transforming your entire body in an authentication token. For those who prefer not to ingest their passwords, Motorola also plans to develop a wearable tattoo with antennas and sensors that could be designed to unlock your smartphone or computer. A passwordless era. Coming soon. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.